Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here, ladies and gentlemen. I think you know what we're going to show you today is a live demo, actually. So cross fingers, everything works accordingly. The title is kind of complex, so vendor neutrality in action, the power of openEHR-based open platforms and app portability. So I think this is really something where we would like to get it down really to what does it mean from different vendors to show how things can work collaboratively via joint apps and everything together. So let's get into this. We're going to show you quickly. Most of you probably know who we are. You will pretty fast figure out 2 out of the 3 staying on the stage are geniuses. The other one is talking now. So we're going to introduce quickly and then show what we do and why we are actually doing it. So why we do believe that vendor neutrality is important. And then we're going to have the live demo, which I'm looking forward quite eagerly because that is going to be really exciting. And then we have hopefully still time for some Q&A. So let's go into this. I'm Stefan Schraps. I'm the Vice President of vitagroup for Business Development and Community Management. At the same time, I'm also a board member of openEHR International. So I have a dual hats here, but let's focus on the openEHR part for today. Quickly about vitagroup, we are long-term in the business, more than 20 years now. What we do now in the openEHR space, specifically with open vendor-neutral data platforms, we do for the past 6 years, and this is also the time we're involved into the openEHR-based business. Roughly around 300 employees, out of which 150, probably half of it, work in the health intelligence platform space. One thing, we have one shareholder and one investor, and I think this is really very important to understand that we have one who can really, has proven that they actually go along with us for the last 20 somewhat years. This is Hans-Werner Hector, one of the SAP founders, and we are very, very proud and very eager actually to prove to him that we can make a difference and change in the healthcare space. So up to Sidharth. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sidharth Ramesh. I'm the founder of Medblocks. I'm also an SEC expert panel member. And at Medblocks, our mission is to make open data platforms the norm for digital health transformation. So we provide a suite of open source and free products that all of you are free to use. We help with implementation and support if you decide that it's a good idea to pay us. We offer training. Mostly, many of you might have already taken some of our boot camps and our training sessions before. And we focus on hands-on coding, and we have more than 1 million plus patients in over 8 countries. We have hundreds of happy students on our training programs, and our community is over 5,000 innovators strong and growing.
I'm Sebastian Iancu. I'm software architect for co-founder at Codenefor. I'm also a member of the specification editorial committee of openEHR, as well as the Dutch affiliate of openEHR called openEHR NL. And a few words about Codenefor. We started in 2010. We implemented directly openEHR. At the time, we made all of our software and solution based on openEHR. So we have quite a lot of experience. We serve more than 25 customers, all in mental care in Netherlands. And we accumulate a lot of data, so we can actually say that openEHR works in reality for many years already. Stefan.
Okay, so the big question, why are we doing this, what we're doing today? We can bring it to a nutshell because we can. It's really something where it sounds a little bit silly, but all of us in this openEHR-based industry, of course we talk to each other continuously for, what are we? Are we competitors? Are we joint partners? Is the competitive space more that we're running against each other in the projects? Or are we enough synergies that there are actually to go jointly into a go-to-market approach. And I think this is really something where we, our long talks with Medblocks, with Code24, and I still remember when we started the talks with Code24 that, we said, okay, for the Dutch market, I mean, you have a CDR, we have a CDR, there's an open source starting point. So how could we potentially go jointly into these kind of projects? And I think this really is telling a story, how can we generally collaborate as vendors, as manufacturers of certain components, of different go-to-market approaches, of different value propositions. How can this be formed into one offering that potentially can target the customers and the projects way better than probably they can be done today? So it's really something where we believe that we have a starting point that we all believe in the same vision. It's about the separation of data. It's about convincing customers, projects of certain target groups, of different target groups, to make them on the way to get vendor independent, to become vendor independent. And all of this is starting with we heard this several times in several speeches, taking control over the data. And taking control over the data always means that you have to start probably, in the center of the interest is the clinical data repository that is taking control of the data. And it's quite easy from the openEHR perspective to say, okay, you are in a data prison right now. You are vendor dependent, and in all the projects you get like a knocking, yes, that is the case, and I would love to be out of this prison. But if you actually, and I think this is quite an exciting journey now, because we are now talking about something that we couldn't think of. Micro still works. Anyway, that is really something where a couple of years back we didn't talk about this. So it was just the vendor-dependent systems versus the new world of open data, openEHR-based open data systems. Now we have procurements from all kind of regions, national initiatives, certain larger projects for infection control and disease-based systems, but also hospitals, hospital chains. So there's different target groups that are now thinking about how can we take advantage of an openEHR-based system. And I think the speed of those procurements are really now suffering from a decision-making process that is kind of another lock-in. Do I make a decision for a CDR from a certain vendor, and how am I locked into this vendor-driven approach then? So the question is, how can we collaborate on the openEHR side, really, to really have federated systems? So federated systems means one hospital might use a CDR or a platform from one vendor, another hospital from another vendor, and the region approach consisting of maybe those two hospitals has maybe a third CDR. Does this work? And furthermore, if you put applications on top, do they still work, taking advantage of the data that is being stored in these various CDRs? And I think if we can resolve that, and we're going to show this today, that it's resolvable and very, very easy resolvable, then I think you will come to the conclusion that it's not the decision I'm locked into a certain vendor for a long period of time. If I make the decision for one vendor, it's still going to work for the region, it's still going to work for national systems, it's going to work for whatever you have in mind, also on the application and use case side. So this is what we're going to show you today, and I'm quite happy that Sebastian is now explaining you what actually smart is.
Yeah, so like Stefan said, we were looking to how can we use the data that we already have. So suppose that we have all this vendor neutrality on the data, how can we actually use it? And our focus today is about smart, and I don't know how familiar are with the smart specification, smart technology, but just a quick introduction. Smart was promoted initially by a project of Boston Children's Hospital, Smart Health IT, and it's nowadays been very popular in fire community as a Smart on Fire. The promise is that you can run applications in any kind of a system, and you can actually do that already for many years on fire specification. You have, if you're looking to the technical part of it, you can see addressed issues like authorization, authentication. How can you launch an application in a system? How can an application be integrated with the whole platform? How's the communication going, and that kind of things. So we took that specification a year ago into openEHR-Based, Sidharth. Can you go to the next slide, please? And we were looking to what we need to add in order to make it also facilitating openEHR CDRs. And luckily it was quite easy. We conserve everything that is smart on fire, so everything that still works for fire will still work with this specification that we did, but you get also access to openEHR applications, APIs. And by that you also have access to the data modeling, or you can take use of that, and the data storage of openEHR. And along that, we also open up more services available, so you can actually connect, for instance, a DICOM service to the system if you want. And again, it all works in combination with Fire. So in theory, applications that are already Smart on Fire ready will also work with such platform that you combine openEHR and Fire. But with this one, you also get access to the Fire API, openEHR APIs. So we're going to demonstrate how can it be used in reality, and hopefully it's going to work.
Yeah, okay, let the demo gods be with us today. So we are, the objective of this demo is to give you an intrinsic feel of like what this new technology can do. Right? Smart is something that I think unlocked in me for the first time, like what an app ecosystem is possible of. Like, and I was looking at the Smart on Fire store for the first time, and that's when I got this unlock that, okay, you can have a gallery of apps that you can just take and use with any platform, and it works. So let's meet Betty. So she's a Dutch woman who's 70 years old, and she suffers from chronic asthma. Okay, she goes to Germany for a vacation. And while she's in Germany, what happens is that she's sitting in a park bench, and she's just enjoying nature. But suddenly she gets breathless, and she's not able to breathe. So she's immediately rushed to the hospital, and the doctor or the practitioner in charge of Betty opens her record up, and again, this is the Medblocks EHR, which is running on HIP-CDR. So we are using the HIP's platform, and they open Betty up. Hopefully the demo gods. Okay, fine, great. Yeah, okay. So they go and they give her a clinical note. I'm going to delete this for just a safe measure. Okay, give me a second. Okay, there's nothing there. Okay, so they write, okay, this is a 45-year-old woman from the Netherlands who presented with severe asthma, and she has wheezing, and high levels of pollen are noted. Okay, no recent infection or no known allergies. Now they are also giving her a diagnosis of acute exacerbation of asthma, and they are prescribing her a medicine of prednisolone. And they are just asking her to take it once in the morning. Now, all of this is going to be stored in the openEHR-CDR, and okay, let's give it to her for a week. Why not? So we are saving this, and this gets stored in the Medblocks EHR, which again is using HIP-CDR on the background. Okay.
Allegedly in Germany.
In Germany. All of this is allegedly in Germany. Yes. Now we come back. So Betty gets an email, or she gets an SMS saying that, hey, you have data in your record, and you can now access this data. Now, Betty is using this PHR, which is her own personal health record, and this is sort of magical to me, and I want to show you how this looks like. So Betty is just able to say, oh, okay, I got my login credentials for Medblocks, and I'm just going to connect to this record where my information is. I'm going to connect, and it asks for a certain number of permissions. So again, like Betty is already logged in here, and it might usually ask for a login step or OTP authorization, something along that sort. That's how Betty gets into the EHR. But after this is very familiar, right? Like you've seen this on Google, Facebook. This is just OAuth 2. Betty, all she needs to do is now allow the PHR app, which she's using on her behalf, access to her actual health record. She says allow. And we come back, and now this is a connected EHR. Like Medblocks is a connected EHR. And you can see that, okay, this is the technical stuff of how exactly Smart works. We don't really want to go into the depths of this now. But for Betty to download all of her records, all she needs to do is download. And she has all of her data under her control now, and it's in here, right? Now, the reason why Betty wanted to do this in the first place was that she is a citizen of the Netherlands, and she wanted to go back to the Netherlands. And now she is in a hospital in Germany, and she's feeling sick, but she knows that she wants the doctor back in Netherlands to be able to access this information. Okay, so now how does Betty, send? Now we've already done this, right? Like we've already done this where the Medblocks EHR was talking to HipCDR, and then we sent this data to the PHR app through Betty's consent. Now, Betty wants to send this back to the Netherlands. So how does she do that? Well, all she has to do is go here and say, okay, I want to upload this to another EHR. And what is the other EHR here? Care-based 24. And since Code 24 is using the exact same protocol, the app does not need any change. You can add any number of EHRs here, and if one of you implements Smart on openEHR tomorrow, this will be possible in your system as well. Betty can just sign in, authorize for the patient composition, create, read, update, delete, and we are authorizing that. And she is now connected with Care-based 24 as well. I am going to select this, and I am going to upload this to Care-based 24. And this has been synced to Care-based 24 successfully. Now, over to Sebastian.
Yeah. So suppose I'm a care provider in the Netherlands, which I'm not, I'm a programmer. But suppose for a while that I'm a care provider, and I will log in my care provider portal, coding for product, and the patient, Betty, you can search there. I heard that there is a problem with Betty. I'm going to check what's up with Betty. We know it suffers from chronic asthma, so it's a known patient in Netherlands. And I will check the clinical notes. I will see that suddenly I have more information than I had before. It's actually information was pushed by the patient app, and I have access to the information in my system, my care provider system. So I can actually take use of the data. I can change the prescription because, I'm guessing the prescription is not suitable anymore, so I have to adapt to the new situation. And that might be a very important aspect in the care process of Betty.
Now, again, the demo here, what we showed, we basically, the care-based system and HipCDR had common templates, so we already did that in advance. So the patient just had to pull the composition into the PHR app, and then they pushed it. And again, I want to emphasize the fact that the Smart application, there was no other coordination between the platforms. These are two completely separate open platforms, and Betty, the patient, was the one who was logging into these different systems and then allowing access and moving data around. And we are seeing this pattern emerge in a lot of other countries where the patient is at the center and the patient actually transfers their data in what ways they want. And today this is a PHR, but it could very easily be an app that Betty uses to track her medications, or it can be something that she uses to get a second opinion. And the possibilities are endless here. And the PHR app that we showed just used the APIs of an open platform. And I don't know why the display does this, but and here, interoperability is just a cool side effect, right? Like, we didn't do this for interoperability. We did this for Betty, right? Like, Betty was able to download her records, and Betty was able to push extra data back in. And this might include Betty reporting her prompt score, or it might include Betty doing a lot more. And interoperability is just one use case that we want to show, in which she can download a very specific record from one open platform and then transfer it to another open platform if she so chooses to do it. And yeah, takeaways.
Well, I hope you get the implication of what you've just seen here, because what I always keep saying that in the openEHR space, we're fishing right now in a lake where there are currently still not enough fishes in there. So what choices do we have? We can really fight hard against each other and trying to take away the fishes from each other. Then it will not be a very fruitful business for any of us. Or we're trying to expand the lake, make the lake bigger, get more fishes in the lake. So what we actually do by showing how federation among different manufacturers can work, we have certain implications here. We clearly put the user, now this is also the care provider as well as the patient, in the center of the interest. So it's really, we can do this, show this, and prove this across borders, but this can also be among different ecosystems, doesn't necessarily need to be different countries. Different regional applications. Now, for example, we have in Catalonia, we have a very, very large, the biggest implementation in the openEHR-based implementation in the world right now. But still, I mean, Catalonia is not the whole of Spain. Now, there's a national initiative in Spain where there are early followers and late followers doing something similar. So how can we impose ecosystems that really are driven from this patient-centric perspective, from the user perspective, taking advantage of applications that arise from all different aspects and different angles. And now you don't have to worry about anymore how you connect or to who manufacturer, openEHR-based manufacturer, you connect your application. By using this, you can actually connect to any of these, and this, we believe, will impose and really help lighten up the application-based ecosystems, the open ecosystem world. At the same time, it will make the decision-making process for vendors or for projects or for decision makers, for budget owners, way simpler, because you don't have to think about, if I make this choice on a certain vendor, then I'm locked into this vendor, and if a hospital using a different system than the one that a region is using, that this is not going to federate and going to work among each other. So I think this is a very, very important step that we are going to show here, and we have, the interesting part is.
Yeah. I think the key word is that we actually facilitate the application portability, so that's
correct. Patient, app portability, and the last point, it was really not very complicated. Sidharth said, actually, you say it yourself.
I mean, it was complicated, but the fact that we were able to even talk to Code24 without any change in the data format, in the composition, and that core bit where we actually sent data and then it was just received by Code24 and it said like 201, okay, the data is here. That felt magical, and we did this in such a short span.
We could do that because we actually share the model, so we have the same archetypes and templates, openEHR archetype templates. We have the same APIs, also standardized API of openEHR, and also the standardized way of communicating from app to the platform.
Yeah. All right, so this is what we wanted to show you. So thanks a lot, and we're ready for questions.
Perfect timing, and I'm glad we already have hands up, so.
Yeah, thanks. Really great work. A lot of questions that I want to ask, but I will only ask one, because I think we now have to wonder how we're going to govern templates, because that's going to be somewhat of an Achilles heel here, yeah? How we're going to make all the templates the same way. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So one answer to this would be that we actually, again, this might be a little controversial, but we allow patients to create templates. I mean,
actually, we allow the application to create a template.
Or the application. We allow applications that are, in the process of onboarding on top of a platform. We can allow applications to have their own templates, but extending it a bit further, why not? I mean, they're contributing data back to the system, so.
Maybe we should also mention that inside the specification committee, we had some discussions about facilitating packaging archetypes, templates, perhaps queries, and other artifacts that you want to ship from one platform to another platform. So I think that's also probably the key. How can you actually guarantee that an application is going to run or is able to run on a system is probably via facilitating this shipping of different packages. And this is very technical, but yeah, that's the solution. From one platform to another, or from application to a platform.
Yeah, another question from me. Love the demo, thank you so much. Amazing work. Empowering the patient, that's basically what you're showing. However, I'm curious how actually easy it's going to be implementing it in real world scenarios. So for example, integrating with the existing EHR systems and getting them on board to share the patient information. What are the challenges and how do you see that develop further down the line?
Good question.
Yeah, do you want to answer?
Well, I think with Smart on Fire, you already have a bit of that promise, because you have the Fire interface over a probably closed system. With this one, you also have openEHR. So if you are able to share the models, if you are able to talk openEHR, then you also have the shared models. Take it for granted. So I think the technology is there. Whether or not you're going to use it, it's depends on the buyer, on the seller.
I want to bring your attention to, can you see my screen here? Yeah. Okay, cool. So the US government at some point mandated that every single healthcare system in the US is supposed to publish a public Fire API that supports Smart on Fire. And that's the list, right? Like you literally have, for example, if I have data in Valley Health Plan, I know that this is the endpoint that I need to use, and all I need to do is I need to bring this into my PHR, and it works, right? Like because it's been mandated, and again, this may be something that might be lacking right now in the EU and in the UK, but it's easy for regulators to say that health systems, need to just open up their APIs and they need to publish something publicly and give access back to the patient. They don't need to do any of the interoperability stuff at all. Like they just need to say give access to the patient, and this already works. Like if I'm in the US, I can use my Apple Health app to actually connect to these EHRs and pull my record into my phone. It works.
We have one more question here. Okay. Well, Severin is going to wait for his presentation, which is next. So that's also good.
I really enjoyed the presentation. I was just wondering whether you did anything around just submitting the composition to both platforms at once rather than kind of downloading and uploading, and also whether you thought about doing anything around federating AQL queries across both platforms at the same time.
Yeah. So I think that is an application concern. Right? Like, so technically, if you wanted to optimize the PHR app further, or if you wanted to do federated AQLs, all you need to do is get the patient's consent and connect these two EHRs. And if we have a list of, let's say, all the EHR, all the hospitals in EU, or all the NHS trusts in the UK, and there is an actual list of things that a patient can choose, and then they can first connect to it, and then as an application developer, you can decide what you want to do on the application layer.
So this application already had access, had consent to actually query the API, so therefore can also actually run AQL query already. Just that in our demonstration, we didn't choose to do that one. We just deal with composition, but in theory, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I can use this, access token to, query Code24's AQL APIs if I wanted to. And it's going to be the patient's data, but then they get to do what they want with the CDR.
Thanks a lot.
It does. Just wait.
Okay, cool. So right now the data is in two places. Is there a way around that? Could you point from one CDR to another? Is that the future, or is that something that's a bad idea?
So what's the problem with the data being there in multiple places?
I think that having a single source of truth is generally considered good practice. And yeah, it might be that one place gets updated or whatever, and then suddenly you're out of sync. So sort of having the single source of truth.
Right, okay. So here it's, I don't know, Sebastian,
Well, I think, again, this was a choice. This is a application that we made just for this presentation. This is not a real-life application, like in production. We just made it just to demonstrate the technology. And in our choice, we wanted to exchange information like that, like Sidharth said. But in theory, again, you could federate two platforms. You have the token to actually run query, and there are also some upcoming specification in openEHR about how to make federated queries. Why should you actually copy data? Again, it's just a choice. In our case, in our scenario, we're speaking about two different countries. There are two different legislation, two different policies. So you might want to actually copy the data because, patient is controlled. Patient is in the center. He has access to both worlds. But as a care provider, it might be much more complicated to actually, at least at this time. I don't know with European health data space in the future is going to change, but technology is there. It's just a matter of how do you want to use it.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, because we have 5 more minutes, so that's great.
So, sorry, thinking about the international patient summary and thinking about traveling again, if the patient had something that was relevant and you wouldn't be able to give a medication like an allergy, you wouldn't get that if you didn't have the situation that was presented before. So you would want that to be available. If I were unconscious and I had an allergy, you would want to know that. And that's the intention of the International Patient Summary, as far as I know. So how would we go around that?
So there is this spec called the... Okay, yeah, you can... Yeah.
Oh, say.
There's this really cool thing called the Smart Health Links that's also coming up. This is a standard, again, built on top of Smart. And I want to show how this looks like. Is there a... Okay, cool. So a patient can generate a QR code in advance and then have that printed on a card or whatnot. And that particular QR code is a pre-consented set of data points that anyone can access if they scan that QR code. So here in the demo, we showed how they can connect to an EHR and how they can, pull and push. But the basic fundamental technology behind that is still Smart. And if you implement something like Smart Health Links, all you're doing is you're embedding the access tokens within the QR code. And even if the patient is unconscious and they happen to have a Smart Health card or a Smart Health QR code, another person can scan that and fetch the data for them in another system, even if they're unconscious.
So in this scenario, for instance, Germany, the hospital in Germany could fetch the data because it had consent from Netherlands, and he could see the allergic asthma problem.
Okay, I think we can end on that note because it's a perfect leeway to the next session. But first, a big round of applause, please.